My name is Jeff Morgan from Dallas, Texas. I don't have a lot of time right now, so I'm basically going to do a one shot at this thing here. But I'm going to ask, if you are listening to this video, that you would join us tomorrow. We are going to be court watching in the 345th Civil District Court in Travis County, and that's for Jan Soifer, who is the judge. And I think this is a very important case for us to watch, because the issue is this: does the public actually have the right to observe the trials that are being broadcast in these courts, or are judges like Tyrant Judge Dustin Howell allowed to exclude the public from watching the hearing because he wants to, and conducting a star chamber? Now, in our Texas State Constitution, in Article 1, Section 13, it says that the courts shall remain open. This is a constitutional issue. Judge Roy Ferguson wrote regarding this whole issue about open courts, especially under COVID, in the background and legal standards, the public right to access remote hearings during the COVID-19 pandemic. He said that the emergency order's recognition of the public's right to reasonable notice and access to the court's proceedings, both civil and criminal, is consistent with traditional practice in Texas state courts and with federal and state precedent as discussed below. The Supreme Court has also held that the press and the public have a similar independent right under the First Amendment to attend all criminal proceedings in both federal and state courts. Although the Supreme Court has never specifically held that the public has a First Amendment right of access to civil proceedings, federal and state courts that have considered the issue have overwhelmingly held that there is a public right to access in civil cases under the First Amendment. Courts must, absolutely must, ensure and accommodate public attendance at court hearings. The constitutional issue at stake here does not belong to the parties. The parties can't say we don't want to have a public hearing. The constitutional issue belongs to the public. It is the public's right to attend these court hearings. The public has a right to witness how its judges are working, how its courts are operating, not only to inform the public on how their votes may be swayed in the future, depending on the conduct of a judge, but also to lodge complaints against the judge, and also to make sure that their taxpayer money, which is supporting these courts and these judges, are being used for purposes of justice and not unrighteousness. Therefore, the court must, I reiterate, must take all reasonable measures necessary to ensure public access to the court hearings. Even if a judge is physically in a courtroom for the virtual hearing, it is the court's burden. It is the court's burden to ensure public access to each hearing and to take reasonable measures to remove barriers thereto. Choosing not to provide reasonable and meaningful public access to remote hearings, remote proceedings at this time, may equate to constitutional error and mandate reversal. And now what is at stake here is that not too long ago there was a case heard in front of Tyrant Judge, corrupt judge, haughty judge Dustin Howell of Travis County. During this time, Judge Dustin Howell decided to unilaterally cut the YouTube feed, which had been playing, because he did not like the comments of some of the participants who were watching the hearing on YouTube. One of the participants in particular mentioned, if I remember correctly, that he had hoped that somebody was recording this proceeding. Now remember, Tyrant Judge Dustin Howell had issued an order that said nobody can record this proceeding, and if they do so, would be considered contempt of court, could be punishable. I doubt whether such actions are constitutional. I doubt whether he has the authority to do that. But nevertheless, he did that, and because of that, because one person in the chat said that he hoped, that he wished that the hearing was being recorded, Judge Dustin Howell unilaterally cut the YouTube feed, deprived the public of their right to access, deprived my friend his right of having the hearing being broadcast publicly. Dustin Howell did this by himself. Dustin Howell decided he was going to be his own constitution. Dustin Howell decided he was going to tell the litigant, screw your constitution, in my court, I'm God, I am the Constitution. Now there are codes of Texas judicial conduct, there are Texas codes of judicial conduct that govern what Tyrant Judge, haughty judge, arrogant judge Dustin Howell did. We have Canon 1 of the Texas Code of Judicial Conduct, which a judge shall comply with the law and should act at all times in a manner that promotes public confidence and integrity in the integrity and impartiality of the judiciary. I will tell you, as a person who witnessed the hearing, he did no such thing, as will about 55 other people who were witnessing the hearing before Tyrant Judge Dustin Howell chose to cut us off in an unconstitutional and unilateral manner. A judge shall not allow any relationship to influence judicial conduct or judgment. A judge shall not lend the prestige of judicial office to advance the private interests of the judge or others. And there's some argument behind this. I'm not going to get into it right now. Nor shall a judge convey or permit others to convey the impression that they are in a special position to influence judge. A judge shall not testify voluntarily as a character witness. The judge in Canon 3 should be faithful to the law and shall maintain professional competence in it. One could make this case that Tyrant Judge, haughty Judge, Dustin Howell, not only did not maintain professional competence in the law, but if he actually knew what he was supposed to do, he completely disregarded it and figured that he himself could become his own law in his own court, and thus violate the public right of many people to access and to watch the hearings. A judge shall be patient, dignified, and courteous to the litigants, jurors, witnesses, lawyers, and others with whom the judge deals in an official capacity. Now, Tyrant Judge, haughty Judge Dustin Howell was acting in an official capacity. We witnessed him. We witnessed him abuse one of the litigants. After he cut the feed, he resumed his arrogance, his haughtiness, as the transcripts will attest to. A judge shall perform judicial duties without bias or prejudice. That also is something very difficult for him to assert that he did, based on the testimony of many people who were watching it. 55 people, if I remember correctly, 55 people of the public. He deprived them, 55 people, of their right, their public right to access, to have an open court in effect. Tyrant Judge, haughty Judge, the God Judge, Dustin Howell did all of this not just to the litigant, but to the public. Also at issue here are the bill of our specific constitutional issues. For example, in the 14th Amendment, it says that all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of the citizens of the United States, nor shall any state, and that also includes any state actor, such as Tyrant Judge, haughty Judge, arrogant Judge Dustin Howell, nor shall he deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. He shall not be his own judge God. He shall not write his own constitution. He does not have unlimited discretion to make up laws as he goes, and to enforce only that which he finds is in his best interest and not in the interest of the public, nor to deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the law. So there was there were some motions filed against this judge. I filed with the State Commission on Judicial Conduct. I also provided telephonic warning to him. Others also contacted the office during the course of this hearing, and the Tyrant Judge, the haughty Judge, Dustin Howell, decided to disregard everybody and be his own little God. And once again, to reiterate, that First Amendment right belongs to the public, not to the parties. The parties cannot waive it by agreement, and the interesting thing is the parties did not waive it by agreement either. So no matter how you cut this case, the Tyrant Judge, Dustin Howell, was depriving not only one of the litigants, if not both of the litigants, and the public, their rights to participate in the hearing as observers, according to the open court doctrine in the state of Texas and according to our Texas State Constitution, Article 1, Section 13, which states that the courts shall remain open. Now, in the paperwork that I have here, there's numerous issues at stake with what Dustin Howell did. And we have filed with the State Commission on Judicial Conduct. There's also been some filings that he should be recused, because obviously if this Tyrant Judge has acted the way that he can, there is no sense that my friend, one of the litigants, can receive a fair and impartial hearing under this Tyrant Judge. There is no way whatsoever he can receive due process, equal protection under the law. This judge has already revealed the cards that are in his hand, and his cards are to show partiality in this ruling. He is not acting as an impartial judge. He should be reprimanded by the State Commission on Judicial Conduct. He should be sanctioned, and I believe that there are other penalties that come along with it. So to go back to my original comment with this, tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock in the 345th District Court in Travis County under Judge Sophia, there will be a hearing. And it would be very interesting if for some reason this hearing were also not public, but there's supposed to be a hearing regarding recusing Tyrant judge, the haughty judge, the arrogant judge, Dustin Howell, from this case. In fact, the motion was not only to recuse Dustin Howell, but to actually have the Honorable Roy Ferguson, the author of the legal standards and backgrounds that I mentioned earlier, to actually be assigned to this case. Will that happen? We do not know. Once again, the public has the right to view trial so that they may ascertain the qualities of the judges in order to determine if the judge should receive or not receive their vote in the next election. Regardless, even if you put that aside, the fact is that these judges make a lot of money at taxpayer expense. Judge Dustin Howell makes a minimum of $140,000 from taxpayer funds. He is our servant. He is not our God, he is our servant. And we have the right to judge whether he is actually a worthwhile investment, if he is a worthwhile employee. But Tyrant judge, haughty judge, Dustin Howell, does not want you looking at his actions. One person even said he already has his decision in mind. Dad will lose. That's how unbiased, how impartial, how fair Tyrant judge Dustin Howell was in this case. But Dustin Howell decided to cut the YouTube feed unilaterally because of what one of the individuals chatted during the video. I believe he said that he was hoping that somebody recorded the video. Maybe he did. Maybe he said I'm recorded. I don't believe he did. But regardless, for Tyrant judge Dustin Howell to stop the video feed actually violated the rights of the litigant. This hearing tomorrow in the 345th District Court in Travis County is to see whether the public indeed does have the right to access public hearings as we are supposed to have, as our Constitution guarantees us. And just to show how unjust this judge has been, I've decided, because I've been able to obtain a copy of the transcript of this trial, I'm going to read part of it to you. Because a recess was taken, and it's 10:15, why don't we take a 5-minute break, says Tyrant Judge Dustin Howell. We'll come back at 10:20. I can tell you, Miss Weinman, that was 27 of direct plus 16 that you've already used. That's 43 minutes. You've used of your 80, so you will have 37 minutes remaining to you. We'll come back at 10:20. Thank you. And the recess was taken. And now the court returns at 10:20 approximately. We don't know exactly because, again, Dustin Howell had cut the feed. And he says this: so it was brought to my attention during the break that despite my admonition that no one record these proceedings because he does not want his haughty behavior, his abusive behavior, his hostile behavior portrayed to the public, as it was, he wants to hide what he's been doing in these courts. That one of the commentators in the YouTube feed, while the chat was active normally, that feature is disabled. That one of the commentators specifically said they were recording the proceedings. Once again, I do not believe that was said, but even if it was, so what? And so I have, on the basis of that, and then rather than continue his sentence, Mr. Champagne, are you chatting? Mr. Champagne, no, I'm typing something up, Judge. The court, to another person you're communicating? Mr. Champagne, no, I'm looking something up. And here comes the abusive Judge Dustin Howell. Please don't talk over me, Mr. Champagne. You continue to talk over me. Will you please let me finish what I'm saying? As I was saying, a person said they were recording the proceeding, which is obviously exactly contrary to the admonition I gave at the beginning of the hearing. To prevent any further violation of that, and to hopefully spare someone from being held in contempt of court, I am cutting the YouTube feed. Dustin Howell said this. This is on the transcript. This is an official transcript. These are his words to Taran Champagne. So I just wanted to make that clear on the record. The chat function in the YouTube has been disabled. Not that it matters at this point. However, we will attempt to identify who it was contending they were going to record it. And if so, we will take appropriate measures because Dustin Howell does not want his abusiveness shown on YouTube. He wants to maintain the facade that he is an impartial, a dignified judge when he was anything but that toward Mr. Champagne in these hearings. Without Mr. Champagne, it's your cross. Mr. Champagne, actually, may I ask you a question, Judge? The court, what is your question? Mr. Champagne, yes, the Texas Constitution notes that the courts shall remain open. At this point, they are not open. This hearing is now in violation of the Texas Constitution. It seems like it's going to be a star chamber where I won't have people here to witness. Can I invite them into the Zoom hearing? Now here is the tyrant judge, the haughty judge, the arrogant, abusive judge, Dustin Howell, who says, your objection is noted and you may continue. Mr. Champagne, I'm not understanding. Did you say, yes, I can? Or I can invite them into the Zoom hearing so that I can have court watchers? I feel like this is a star chamber. The court, your objection is noted. You may continue your cross. Dustin Howell, the tyrant God, the God judge, Dustin Howell is going to violate Mr. Champagne's constitutional rights and hold a hearing which is contrary to the Texas state constitution. So the whole thing proceeds, and at the end, Miss Weinman, who is the attorney, and by the way, we'll have a couple of segments dealing with Miss Weinman. Miss Weinman has been a gem. She has provided a lot of information for us, so she will have a few special sessions dedicated just to her sometime in the future. The court, is there any remaining motion that needs to be ruled on? Miss Weinman, I don't think so. I think you've covered everything. The court, oh, good. Dustin Howell's patting himself on the back. Oh, good. To which Mr. Champagne says yes. Yes, actually. I had requested a ruling earlier about the constitutionality of a star chamber. Since this hearing was not being, and you said that you took note, so I'm asking for a ruling on that. Oh, ho, 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 ho. How dare you cross me, Mr. Champagne? The court says this. Yes, I think the record speaks for itself. To the extent you're objecting to the court's cessation of a live stream, in light of the circumstances presented by the participants in the chat on the live stream, I overrule your objection. I am going to be my own constitution. I'm going to do my own thing. The law be damned. I am not bound by the law. I'm not bound by the Constitution. I'm not bound by any ethical considerations. Damn the law, damn everything. So I believe you have your ruling. Anything else for us? Mr. Champagne, it appears you're speaking, but you are on mute. Are you able to unmute yourself? You're still on mute. Mr. Champagne, okay, yes, I am unmuted. I am not responsible for the actions of people in there, and I personally have a constitutional right to have my trial heard in the public square. I can't control what people are doing. Oh, how dare you, Mr. Champagne. Your objection is noted, you piece of scum. I have ruled on it, and that ends the discussion, you little peon. And with that, you are excused. Thank you, and get out of here. So tomorrow, this is what the hearing is going to be on. Well, the judges are allowed to do anything they want to. Violate the Constitution, be their own law, be their own judge, be their own God in their own court, and then basically say, screw you to the Constitution, screw you to the litigants, screw you to the public, screw you to every type of decency and law and order. Now, I believe that this judge, Dustin Howell, should be completely sanctioned. I believe that he should also be fined for what he did. I believe he should be removed from office because if he cannot act in a professional, courteous, dignified, impartial manner, he has disqualified himself from being judge. I also believe because of the costs that Mr. Champagne and others have incurred, that he should recompense them. And I also believe that in accordance with the standard that Judge Roy Ferguson issued, that this whole thing should be overturned. A constitutional error has taken place and that it should mandate a reversal. So tomorrow at 9 o'clock, 9 o'clock tomorrow, please join us. Please be a court watcher with us on the 345th District Court of Travis County. It'll be very interesting. We need to have people watching. The more people that watch, the more these judges are concerned about what they're going to do. They realize that they are subject to public scrutiny. Unfortunately, Judge Dustin Howell thought he was going to find a way around it by depriving a person of his constitutional rights and the public of their constitutional rights, but we are fighting back. And we hope that you can be with us there tomorrow to watch this. Even if you're not there, log in and let it play. Let them think that we have 200 or 300 people there. If we get 50 people, it would be great. We'd love to have many, many more. This is a very big importance, whether you have a constitutional right to observe the hearings that take place in your courts, whether Article 1, Section 13 of the Texas Constitution means anything, or whether judges, because they are exercising their discretion, can just disregard the Constitution and become their own Constitution, their own law, their own God, and their own court, and abuse people. And that's it. Hope to see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. Thank you very much. Wednesday, September the 1st, YouTube, 345th District Court, 9 a.m. Central Time. Be there to watch this trial take place. Once again, thank you all very much.